DDG episode 232. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
Dave, I have a panic every time you say an episode number because it seems too high and it might be wrong. But yes, 232 is this week's episode.
I've been double checking since you publicly humiliated me before with whatever you wrote on the agenda. So now I
just messed it up. Yeah. I could write anything there.
I trust but verify you now. So
as you should. I'm a little tired. I'm a little delirious from the morning I had. Gas leaks are fun, apparently. So I'm good. And I got my caffeine and ready to talk about some bullshit this week.
Yeah, this is why you're making a change though. So you're gonna be making a change, and this gas leak just kind of accelerates the reasoning behind that, validates the reasoning behind that.
Yeah. It was the last gift before eventually moving. So fun times. Yeah.
All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts typically on Thursdays. This week is my fault. I have some things going on. I always feel like I say I have things going on, but there are some personal things going on with my family. Everybody is fine, but there's just some things that I would refer to as energy draining and messing with my headspace. And when that happens, Michael makes it very important to me to say, hey, this is just a podcast. It is not a big deal.
Yeah. If we can take a break from the episode, from the podcast to go to Disneyland, we can take a break for family-related things.
Yep, just a lot of things going on. So, but everything is as good as it can be at the moment. So, but yes, typically we release on Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern time on podcast services around the world. There are people around the world that listen to this show, ironically. And you can also go to our website, digitaldaysgaming.com. And you can subscribe there. You can leave reviews there through your podcast service of choice. And you can also watch us live, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming or youtube.com/digitaldaysgaming. And we have a Patreon and some other stuff that is linked in the show notes, and you can check all that stuff out. We're going to jump right into the news, and this first story baffled me when I saw it today.
This was something that hit today that this kind of encapsulated the weird week we're having in the video game industry. So Annapurna Video Games, or Annapurna Interactive, had their entire staff resign today. So the 25-person staff that make up Annapurna Interactive, the publisher that helps indie games get released and funded, had its entire 25-person staff just hand in a resignation today. The team was in negotiations to spin the gaming division out into its own entity, but after the owner, Megan Ellison, pulled out of the talks, the entire staff just quit today. A statement released by Ellison, the owner, said that they'll continue supporting their partners during this transition period, and they referred to this as a transition period, not oh shit, everything's on fire. It just sounds like they were promised to get spun off into their own entity, which means they would make their own rule set, not have to worry about how the film arm is going, perfectly normal things. It would still be owned by the owner, but
it'd be Annapurna Games, Annapurna Music, Annapurna Movies, or something.
Yeah, it would still be, but it would be more responsible for its own thing and not have to worry about the other arms. Soon as that broke down, they legit left. This is the first time I can think of a publishing arm just mass resigning. We hear talks of threats of sometimes this happening, but this is first time I can recall this happening.
So I guess I'll play, and I mean not play, but I'll ask the ignorant question. Break this down to me I'm five. This is a publisher that's 25 people. This is not a developer.
Yeah.
Correct.
So this is basically how Devolver Digital isn't a developer. They
right.
Find developers they want to work with, fund them, and then help them publish and market their games.
Yeah. So nobody of this 25-person staff makes games. So it's
in theory, in a traditional sense.
Develops, yes.
Yes.
So they're unfortunately in the work industry that we're in right now is that possibly finding half these people that can perform similar tasks, maybe not as great, or the ability to do this is feasible in my mind. Doesn't make it right, but it's feasible. And it's to the point where I've always been taught that negotiation is when both parties are dissatisfied with the results but reach an agreement. And in this situation, both parties were dissatisfied with the results and couldn't reach an agreement. And the easiest agreement was, we're gone. knowing very, very, very little about this and how bad these conversations were or weren't, I do expect 50 to 70% of them to return.
Yeah, depending on like how bad the partners react during this, because like we just talked about last week, Remedy signed a big deal with Annapurna Interactive to help fund and publish Control 2, and also to work with Annapurna Films with an Alan Wake series or a Control series. So you have to imagine Remedy could have the ability to pull out because the deal's relatively new. Or they could just talk with whoever's now in charge of Annapurna to be like, we're not happy with this, and that would potentially force the owner to go back into talks with that staff of like, okay, let's get this going. Doesn't mean they could bring everyone back, because there's some people that might be, there's a chance like the CEO of Annapurna Interactive that resigned today might not be on the best grounds with the owner of Annapurna Interactive in terms of like they can have a functional working relationship after this. Yeah. But it's going to come down to like the partners just kind of being like, hey, we didn't negotiate with you. We negotiated with the people that left. And this is one of those things where a lot of the, the roles, you can probably plug in people from all the various other parts of the video game industry that have been laid off and put a 25-person team back together. But Annapurna, like Devolver Digital, it's a curated publisher. Like there's like a feel when you see a trailer for a game, like even though like Dave, I don't think you play too many Annapurna games, but you can identify them when you see a trailer. It's like either, and if it's artsy, it's Annapurna. If it's wacky, it's Devolver Digital. Like you just see like a trailer and you just immediately like this
they
is
have
a style game that works
this
that
publisher has an identity.
Yeah.
And so like, and are they going to be able to restore that identity if they don't get any of these 25 people back to where they're like, yep, like to your point, like whoever was in charge of this is like, yeah, that's our wheelhouse. Like we're gonna go talk to this dev. Like that's one of our things.
Yeah.
What does our thing become if all 25 people get replaced?
Yeah. So like this does feel like negotiations must have gotten nasty for the owner to just kind of walk away from the negotiating table, and then for all of them to be like, okay, we're just gonna all resign. Basically just someone's bluffing and they got called out on their bluff. It's just kind of hard to tell who was potentially bluffing in this scenario. But this probably won't be the end of it. Again, Annapurna has a lot of deals out there right now with various developers, so this is going to be a developing story, and we'll probably hear more in the coming weeks about their developer partners being dissatisfied or, speaking up about like what's going on here. Or we're going to get like a new label that comes out that's going to have the identity basically or the style of Annapurna Interactive, but it's under a new umbrella. But yeah. Crazy story. Again, I have never seen anything like this in the video game industry, Dave.
Yeah, no, it kind of came across, and I was like, I kind of had to like read it twice, and I was like, what?
Yeah, no, I this happened today, and I was just like, hold on, wait, how did they all leave?
And then I was gonna like copy and paste it and send it to you, and I'm like, he'll see it, like.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I was just like, oh, some people resigned. It's like, no, all 25 people resigned. So crazy story. We'll go from crazy to frustrating, sad, annoying. Microsoft really early this morning. So kind of when I noticed the gas leak around 4:30 in the morning, I was just like kind of waiting for the gas company to get back to me about like, hey, is someone coming? And then I noticed that it was reported by Variety that Microsoft laid off 650 people. So it was like a really early morning story. But yeah, Microsoft is laying off 650 people from the Xbox game division, and it is mostly on the Activision Blizzard side. So the layoffs are mostly corporate and support branches, and this will not lead to any game cancellations or studio closures. Phil Spencer put out a statement, and I believe someone else put out a statement basically saying like, hey, don't worry, games are going to be okay, kind of ignoring the fact that like 650 people are going to lose their jobs. This now brings Xbox's total layoffs from this year across its acquisitions to 2,500 people. And again, most of that is from the Activision Blizzard side, just because Activision Blizzard was so huge. Dave, this is one of those ones where, unfortunately, these are the layoffs that we kind of were expecting, and not the layoffs that we saw earlier this year where studios were closed. This is the kind of layoff I think both of us knew was going to come eventually, and we thought was already taken care of.
Yeah, this is excessive overhead.
Yeah.
Unnecessary overhead, excessive overhead, whatever you want to call it. It's an unfortunate circumstance of, like, how many people do you really need in HR? How many people do you really need in, like, in publishing? Like, Activision Blizzard published their own games. Microsoft has published their own games. So, like, in terms of, like, sending, I'm going to dumb it down, but sending stuff to the printer and sending stuff to, the person that you have a partnership with that manufactures the plastic cases that your games go in. Microsoft handles all that. Activision doesn't need somebody to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So, like, that's where some of this comes from. This would definitely sting significantly less if they didn't do all the other stuff prior. But this is just there. It's obvious and apparent in the video game industry and also in television and movies. It seems like that during the pandemic, there was a significant demand for media, for virtual and digital media. And everybody just assumed that would continue. This is going to be kind of like the new life. People are going to be working from home more often. They're going to be spending more time at home. They're going to keep playing games, and they're not.
Yeah.
And when they're not doing that, and they're going back to whatever it is they do, golfing, camping, hunting, or what, anything. Then we've talked about it all the time. Like, you can only slice a circular pie so many times before you run out of circle.
Yeah.
Like, so eventually something has to either get bigger, or if something gets bigger, something else has to get smaller with the consumer. And when something gets smaller, then the demand is less, and when the demand is less, the demand for the employment is less. Like, it's super kind of just simple math, but it just sucks because like, everybody's like, oh, consolidation in the video game industry sucks. Like, yeah, maybe there's pros and cons to both of it. There's a good chance that Activision Blizzard as a corporation wouldn't have survived the harassment stuff they had going on as an entire company.
Yeah. Or they would have just turned into just the Call of Duty company. And a true IP graveyard.
And there would have been just as many, if not more, laid off.
Yeah.
If that happened too. So it's like, I don't know. Like, at least these IPs aren't, is Microsoft the company to handle these IPs? Current history and trend says no.
Yeah.
But to blame Microsoft and say, oh, this is what Microsoft does. They gobble stuff up and get rid of people. Every company does this. Every company in every aspect of the world does this.
Microsoft just happens to be the biggest one that has been doing it the longest. But yeah, every company does acquisitions, and then they have to chop headcount because they didn't want everything. There's only certain aspects they wanted. This is curious because it's just one of those things where it's just like the 650. You would imagine the corporate cuts, those support cuts would have happened way earlier than they did. But also, it just seems like Microsoft's doing weird moves with some of their layoffs and stuff like that, to where, like, Bethesda got to run like 2-3 years without having to deal with anything, and then they got hit with their layoffs when Activision Blizzard was acquired.
Probably part of the contract.
Yeah. This is one of those ones where it's either they were under some sort of deal that, maybe would have been renewed in the future, or they were kind of using them to just kind of, unfortunately, like, help ease the other layoffs that happened, and then now stuff's opened up. But I'm getting to the point with Microsoft, or I'm already at that point where I'm kind of tired of these statements from Phil Spencer, talking about, like, hey, there's a lot of, like he said, throughout our team's history, we've had great moments and we've had challenging ones. Today is one of those challenging days. And I feel like I've heard the statement way too many times from Phil Spencer in the last, like, 3 years. In terms of layoffs or when stuff has to get delayed, it just always seems like the same statement of, like, hey, we're screwing up and it's starting to get to a boiling point or something where there's only so many times I feel like there was a while where I thought Phil Spencer was, like, bulletproof. And now I'm at the point where I'm just like, there's only so many times he can make this statement before they tell him to kind of not run the games division anymore.
Well, I kind of disagree, though. I wonder if he's being slightly disagree. I wonder if he's just being the board's mouthpiece. Like, they're like, well, this is what we pay you to do. Like, do you think that he, like, I don't know. I'm starting to think more and more now. Do you think he's the one that went to the board and said, I want to spend this much money on Activision Blizzard? Like, he was the driving force behind that? Like he's the one, like, pounding the table in the boardroom? Or is it the board telling him, we got to do something, we got to do this? Or somebody sitting there saying, hey, like, how much would it cost for this? And Phil's like, are you serious? And they're like, well, what would the number be? And he goes, it'd be this. And then the board looks at each other and goes, okay, we're okay with it. And he's like, what the fuck?
Well,
like,
no, I think it's both. I honestly think it's a little bit of both. Like, when we saw the paperwork from the court documents where they're like, they went after Nintendo, I feel like that's the board. Phil Spencer's like, we need to acquire things in order to stay relevant. And then the board gives him a wish list, and it just happened to...
So is Phil Spencer the clouds, though, and the board's shooting for the moon? Is the board
I would imagine it's something
saying,
like that.
I want Pluto, and Phil's like, no, but we can maybe do this. Like, maybe we can do
and I think that's
inside
usually
this
what
atmosphere.
Happens. You know, Dave, you know, like, we both worked retail. We've both had like those DMs that are like, hey, we need this many apps, and it's just like, realistically, that's not happening. I imagine it is like that, but at a certain point, the board, like, with all corporations, will turn greedy and turn on itself and be like, we gave you the moon and you're not doing anything with it.
We didn't talk about it much, but the Phil Spencer that I saw speaking at Gamescom looked like he was tired of answering these questions and tired of having to make these statements. Like, and so to me, my impression of when he was revealing, like, the series and was revealing the series, or Series X and the Series S, like, I felt like he was passionate and excited about what they had decided to make. But now when he's sitting here answering these questions about, why are your games going to PlayStation? Why isn't your hardware selling? And he's pretty much like, I feel like he's just going through the motions because he's a board puppet now. And I'm not defending him. I'm not saying that, you know, like, this is his choice. This is the bed that he chose to get into. He's responsible for his own actions and stuff like that. But he's just kind of a puppet, I feel like. And similar, like I don't even know at this point in time if Bill Gates ever even gets to say anything. But if he does say something, people are like, oh shit.
It's been like 20, 30 years since for Bill Gates.
But I'm sure he still has some weight.
He probably still has a board seat. Yeah. But the problem is with being the puppet, I agree. Like, he's definitely like the mouthpiece for the board. Is the mouthpiece is the thing that gets sacrificed ultimately. And that's kind of where I'm at now, where I'm just like, I'm tired of seeing Phil Spencer come out with these talking points every time. And unfortunately, what will happen is, you know, they'll get rid of him or move him because, again, he's still good at his job. He still has a skill set that they just were like, hey, you're going to sell Office now, you know, something like that. And they might need some, like, fresh perspectives in there. Like, it won't change the board, but it will at least maybe give some different spark. Yeah, but
it's not. I'm sorry, it's not Sarah Bond. It's not Aaron Greenberg. Like, you.
No, and that's the problem. Is like, I feel like they're all connected, so they would end up having to go together.
You can't, like, I don't really think you're gonna go to Sony and take Herman. You know, like, at this point in time, in terms of a public figure you want talking, like, there's no, like, the I guess the only remote possibility, and this is just me, like, just spitballing here, is like, hey, Sean Layden, how much to come and speak, you know, like, and everybody that's listening is going to roll their eyes like, oh, Sean Layden wouldn't do that. Everybody has a price, and Microsoft can pay everybody's price if they're that concerned about it.
Yeah, no, like, if they wanted to go the place, I mean, and Microsoft's done that before.
Adam Boyes, you know,
like Phil Harrison, I think, was at Xbox for a little bit after he was at PlayStation, to where they're like, if they wanted to go to Andrew House, or, you know, even if they wanted to go for, like, Ryan, you know, like, we give Ryan a lot of shit, like, he shouldn't have a microphone in front of him, but he was successful in PlayStation for over 30 years, or in Sony for over 30 years for a reason. So it's one of those things where it's just like, I'm just kind of tired of the talking points that Phil Spencer has been having to do whether that's from him or the board, but it's
I
definitely
agree.
getting tired.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like his Gamescom interviews look like someone who's defeated. You know, like the energy just wasn't there. And, you know, maybe that was jet lag because he was in Germany. But like,
Yeah, I mean, again, being in management as long as I've been in management for interviewing people, especially in the last 2 years, the amount of people that I've interviewed or had influence on or going through a company closing, seeing somebody that's mentally defeated, interviewing somebody that's mentally defeated that I saw like 2 or 3 years ago that had spunk and pride and energy. I see this on a day in, day out basis. I can, like I only have like 15 employees, but I can tell within like the first couple of minutes of talking to one of my employees, like something's wrong, or something's not right. And, like those things. And I feel like something's not right currently with Phil Spencer. And I don't know if that's his own second guessing of his own decisions, the board putting a ton of pressure on him, or him just having to be a puppet, or all of the above.
Yeah. Phil, you've made a ton of money. Annapurna has an opening right now. Like, you would be able to talk about games the way, people like you talking about games. I don't know. But yeah, Xbox needs to get their shit together. Hopefully Indiana Jones is good. Because that's what it's coming down to. And I can't wait for the discourse around Indiana Jones when it comes out during the holidays, deep holidays, and no one really played it.
Post-Thanksgiving.
Yeah, post-Thanksgiving, 2-3 weeks before Christmas. Perfect time to release a game. All right, Dave, let's go into the main event. This is one of those things that as it took over the internet for 3 days that it's already been. The PlayStation 5 Pro was finally announced. So the PS5 Pro was revealed Tuesday by Mark Cerny in a 9-minute video. The features for the Pro will include a 67% increase in the GPU and 28% faster memory, which will mean a 45% increase in the rendering capabilities. So basically, all the things they're increasing is to give us 45% better tech. The big pitch the console will be able to achieve high performance at a high fidelity, so 60 frames per second with less compromise. Advanced ray tracing, which is going to be like 2 to 3 times the rate increase for ray tracing. And then what everyone is calling PISR, PSSR, AI-driven upscaling, which is dedicated hardware for machine learning upscaling, which will basically allow resolution to just be upscaled significantly, which would technically like help on some of that workload for developers. PS5 Pro Game Boost for the other games in the library that don't have like a native PS5 Pro patch. Some more talking points. No disk drive, but it is compatible with the external drive sold by PlayStation. Increased VR2 support, so just VR2 games will run better. Wi-Fi 7, and then it will cost $700 and release on November 7th. A vertical stand sold separately, which I just wanted to put in there because it's just kind of funny. Just cheap out at the very end. Dave,
yeah,
we got to talk about the presentation.
I couldn't get past 3 or 4 minutes though, because Cerny just is boring to me.
You know what? I feel like he was more boring, I like Cerny. Like he's usually super enthusiastic, but like this was another one where I'm just like, oh, you're not feeling this pitch. Like I'm just not.
And then I found
it.
out too, like on the internet, like technically he doesn't work for Sony.
He's like legacy contract. Like he works for them. Like, but
he's not a Sony employee.
Depending on how you wanted to find that, because he's been like basically a contract gun for hire for them exclusively for like 30 years.
But I believe he owns his own business that Sony then works with for this.
Something like that.
Yeah,
it's a consultation development business, and his only client is PlayStation.
Yeah. It's just interesting. It's just one of those other things you're like, huh, really?
Yeah. It's a weird thing.
I said on Discord before this was announced this was going to cost $800, and everybody in Discord laughed at me. Everybody laughed
because that sounds fucking crazy, Dave.
So and in the end, I was air quote correct. I'm not going to sit there and say like I was right, but like
you had the vertical stand and the disc drive.
The disc drive. It's $800 on the dot. So, I. Currently, and like a lot of our active listeners are also active on our Discord, so you're going to hear some stuff. I don't know who this is for. Like, I genuinely do not know who this is for, because when we heard about rumors about this, you and I both talked about it. Like, what are we going to play on this? Like, what, no game reveal. There's this list of things that are going to run better, but like, are you going to go buy a $700 box, Michael, and go replay Final Fantasy VII?
No.
Like, so,
the fact that like 3 of the games they showed you were PS4 game remasters is just like baffling.
So, PSVR 2 is going to run better. Okay, so now it's a $1,300 box.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
and you stopped first party support for PSVR 2. So,
yeah. And then the other one the other elephant in the room is, I would say almost 98% of the ears that are listening to this show, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, I know you will, don't have a TV that can take full advantage of this box.
I would say we're getting closer to like 50.
Really?
Yeah, I would say so.
I'm talking about HDR 10 plus, variable refresh rate, high hertz, like HDMI 2.1.
The people listening to this show, I would probably say it's 50-50, and that's increased.
It doesn't count with Palmer's 9 TVs, right? He doesn't count as 9 different users.
I just think we're at a point now where a lot of people got TVs in 2020, like new TVs, because they had the extra income, and it was kind of hard not to get a TV with those
But
features.
you and I had the same TV, so you're telling me right now my TV can take advantage of this.
At least we'll take advantage. I mean, it already has HDR. I forget which model you have. It might have 120. 10. Yeah, HDR 10 and 120, I believe. Or
yes, I think so. Because I think
so
I have
yours
the
is going to take
TCL 3000.
Yeah, I have the model that's before yours.
Okay.
So mine is only 60.
Right.
But your TV will take full advantage of this technically.
I don't have HDMI 2.1 though, do I?
You should. Yeah.
Okay.
If you have HDR10, it should be 2.1. But it's on only specific ports. So, like, that's a problem is a lot of the TVs, because you bought yours pandemic era, I believe, or maybe before, not every TV has all HDMI 2.1. It's like sometimes one of them are, 2 of them are.
It's like the royal blue ports or whatever, right? Like they're brightly colored or something?
Something like that. So, yeah, I would say because people have bought TVs during the pandemic that they're more likely to at least be close to this, though the 120 hertz is probably the thing that a lot of people are missing. But this is only not promising 120, it's only promising 60, which is the promise we've been
Yeah, it's like, I feel like this is, everything they're talking about on here was the same buzzwords that I heard for the PS4 Pro. Like, and it's, we're going to hit 4K 60 frames. 8 years later, we're still not doing it consistently. I don't get it. And then sometimes, like, I would love to see something in here, a pitch point in here or a bullet point in here about enemy AI, enemy density.
That's where the GPU stuff is gonna take an account, but they didn't have examples.
It's a buzzword of GPU. I'm talking about, hey, like, I want somebody, and this is why I think learning is boring. I want somebody to be like, hey, do you know, like, now with a stronger computer chip, you're not going to see like the same predictable patterns of enemies and stealth missions.
Yeah,
like something like that is like, and like,
you want gameplay, game changing.
Right. Don't show me that the foliage on a tree in Last of Us Part 2 looks better. Like that's like 100 yards away.
Don't show that in a compressed YouTube video that you release.
Yeah.
At 30 frames per second.
That somebody's watching on their phone.
Yeah. This was a bad presentation. This definitely felt like they didn't have anything to show. So we did see the usual first party. There's some third party stuff in there, but I think the Hogwarts stuff was still running 30. Yeah. But it looked prettier because the ray tracing in Hogwarts is fantastic on PC. So it looked fantastic on PSSR.
But everybody's reveling, everybody's reveling in this, and then at the same time, 2 weeks ago, everybody was giving Microsoft crap because Indiana Jones was going to run at 30 FPS. This is why, like, Microsoft, like, this is the scary part. So, and I'm not trying to make it Sony versus Microsoft. This is the scary part of this is PS3 Sony again. We are getting ever so close to PS3 Sony again because they're like, we don't fucking care. Nobody's gonna.
It's the hubris that the thing that PlayStation has had before.
And then they're getting validation from it today. Like the disk drives are sold out.
Yeah.
Like they're gone, and it has to be because of the Pro announcement. But I promise you, I can promise you, they made more disk drives than they're going to make Pros.
Yeah, they had to because they
right. It's compatible with the other Slim, but people are potentially buying a disk drive, and I think that the Pro is going to be hard to get because every new tech, every new iPhone, every new Android, the first week or whatever, is a challenge to get. But there are going to be this is going. I don't even know what their goal would be for this. We'll never see separate numbers for Pro sales. We never saw separate numbers for PS4 Pro sales unless they're just stupid, ridiculously high, like stupid, retarded high.
Yeah.
And so this is all going to be like, oh, PS5 sold this much, which is fine. And Microsoft does the same thing with the X and the S. So I'm not, but I would say that 3 million units by the end of this year is a win.
Yeah. So one of the analysts that
is a really good win.
Video Games Chronicles talked to an analyst, and the analyst thinks it'll sell 13 million units by 2029. So only 2 to 3 mil units per year.
Yeah.
And that would be probably considered, that would basically be on pace with the PS4 Pro sold.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to see a PS5 Pro box in a store. I think if you're not going to be able to walk into a Target, a Best Buy, a Walmart and buy one of these. It's going to be something that it will be on their websites and you order.
Yeah.
And you might have it shipped to the store.
At least not until next year.
Yeah, and you can go pick it up. But it's going to be invites, pre-orders, and it's like you're not going to on November 7th at midnight, you're not going to be able to load up Amazon and buy a Pro. That's not going to be a thing.
Yeah, I maybe, but it's gonna be the that controlled scarcity sort of thing to make it seem like a bigger deal. But here's the problem I had with it, because I do think the PSSR stuff is very interesting, in terms of that hardware dedicated to upscaling is interesting. The ray tracing stuff, I love ray tracing, so that's cool that it would be increased. There should be things that are going to benefit from the upgraded GPU and the faster memory. That stuff should lead to some interesting things, but I was kind of bothered that they just didn't have anything to show with it.
Or even announce.
Anything, or tech demo.
You could have shown a Wolverine trailer.
Yeah, and that's what I was predicting.
30 seconds.
Instead, we got The Last of Us Part 2, which is, a PS4 game that was remastered for PS5, and now here's the PS5 Pro patch. And it was not even a full tech demo. It was hey, here's Ellie, and look at the trees. Yeah. And then we saw, hey, here's Ghost of Tsushima 1, which is a PS4 game that was a remaster for PS5, and here we go. And here's Demon's Souls, which is a remaster of a PS3. And, we saw all that stuff, and it was just they needed something to blow my mind. Not that would have been fully easy to do in a YouTube compressed video, but this is something that's new and not something that I've seen before. They also, I feel rushed this 9-minute thing, because the first 3 minutes they basically had to be hey, your PS5's good. Your non-pro PlayStation is fine. It's good. It's really powerful. For the first 3 minutes, because they also know they're going to still sell PS5s more than PS5 Pros, so they couldn't talk too much shit about the PS5, the thing that they're going to be selling hard this holiday. So in reality, this was a 6-minute thing for PS5 Pro, because the first 3 minutes were basically telling PS5 owners like myself to just cope, it's, deal with having PS5 poor. And that really cut into the time where they could have at least shown something new, or at least gone into a little bit more detail than they did with some of the games that they showed. It was just a real disappointment. And then the disk drive thing doesn't surprise me, Dave. I don't think you're too surprised about lack of disk drive, but it does feel insulting when you're selling something that's supposed to be for the elite hardcore pro gamer sort of shit, and you're missing features that the base model has. That just, you could have eaten the costs of the disk drive. And then to take away the stand too is also one of those things where it's it's a piece of plastic. You were really not going to include that piece of plastic in that $700 machine.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just felt insulting of just like, we can do it because we can.
Right.
Like,
when your previous model came with the vertical and the, like
drive.
the same stand that did both, and it had a disc
Yeah.
drive if you wanted it to have one. It had the stand for you to vertically or horizontally lay it down. Even conveniently had the screws, like storage for the screw. Like that stand was really thought out. Like all the little design tech pieces of where it clicks on and stuff like that. Like that felt that it was like part of something. They wanted you to use that, and now they're just like, it's a clear, like it's even 10 times worse than it was. It's like a clear piece of plastic. Like,
yeah.
And it's just it looks...
and we threw speed fins on it, so you have to buy new plates.
Yeah.
So if you bought custom plates,
yeah,
you're gonna buy some new ones because we're gonna sell you probably some pro plates.
And then I got a bad feeling like that white, like you understand this when I say this, like that white die lot on the disc drive is not gonna match that white die lot on the system.
I hope it does, but there's a chance that could be slightly off. Or like I'm worried because it was made for the Slim.
Like one's going to be matte finish and one's going to be shiny or something.
Yeah,
like
I would hope like PlayStation's very into aesthetic that it won't have that problem, but I also feel like I need to see that disc drive on the Pro just to see if it like looks right. Like if it matches up, because that was made to accompany the Slim, and I hope it was designed to do both, because it's not like a new surprise that they were making a Pro. So I need to know like how that looks. But I'm priced out because I have to pay like 11% sales tax.
You just need to come to my house and pick up your pre-order. It's like
I might have to do that. But like this isn't a $700 machine for me. This is $700 plus the $80 for the disk drive and plus another $100 on tax. This is almost $900. Like I would rather buy a Steam Deck, or we're a year away from Nintendo releasing another console that will probably be $300.
Yeah. Versus for me, it's like It's $42 in sales tax in Michigan.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess like I like the like the future proof thought. Because somebody like me, like there's things now that I'm like, at the time, so much has changed in my life, work and everything, and just life in general since the PS5 has come out. But I went after the PS5 $400 digital version because it was $400 and the other one was $500. Like that's why I went after it. And I'm not upset that I have a digital only console. I love the aspects of it. I'm upset when I see a game that I've been thinking about playing that's like $15, but it's disc and I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, and I have no
70 on.
Yeah, I have no option for that now. I have no ability. Like, I'm kind of even one of those people that wouldn't care if I had to pop off the faceplate and stick the disc drive on there on my PS5 digital and turn it sideways and behind my TV or whatever.
Or just have a little extension. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that, but I don't have that option. Versus, depending on. I mean, let's be real. Like, so if my PS5 overheats in the next 6 months, like I'll buy a Pro. But, like I'm not going to buy a Pro just to buy a Pro. But then I probably won't be disk drive based. And then, 6 months down the road again, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go pick up a disk drive, because something comes out. And I have that option. Similarly, I don't have that option now on my digital version. But the irony of all of this is that the marquee title that's coming out that coincides with this game, with this console coming out, is Call of Duty, which is owned by Microsoft.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where like third parties aren't going to go all out for the feature set. So it's not even like it's going to be like a full like, hey, here's what we can do. What we're going to have to look forward to is a patch for Spider-Man 2, a patch for The Last of Us Part 2, and
is it going to make you like I platinum Spider-Man 2. I'm not going back.
No, same. I didn't platinum The Last of Us Part 2.
I don't want to play that again.
I'm halfway through my second playthrough and then I stopped.
Yeah. Maybe the episodic content that allegedly we were supposed to be getting for Spider-Man 2, like the DLC that's been like supposedly like data mined and stuff like that, it's gone nowhere. If you
still had that, that would have been perfect for this presentation. Right. Of like, here is a new area in Spider-Man that like
here's
looks amazing.
Episode 1 of 3 of Spider-Man 2 DLC running on the Pro.
Because right now, if you want to show off the Pro, you're going to upload a video of The Last of Us Part 2, and then it's going to get put on Twitter or YouTube, and you're going to be like, what am I looking at? Is it the PS4 version? Is it the PS5 version? Oh, it's the Pro version. Cool. Right. I guess that tree looks a little bit
Yeah, and then for somebody like me, like I've said it before, like I can see and feel frame rate and resolution when it changes. But now if I'll just use college football as an example, okay? Like if I get a PS5 Pro and all of a sudden, like I don't even know if it supports it. So I'm just, let's just say it supports 120 hertz refresh rate, okay? I get home, I'm all excited. I unhook my PS5, I move it into Owen's room or whatever so he can play it. I hook up my PS5 Pro, I turn it on, I start looking at some stuff. I haven't played college football in 3 days, and my first time playing it, I'll be like, oh wow, like okay, I see a little difference there. But then within the next 5 to 10 minutes, my eyes are comfortable and programmed and changed to where I'll only notice if it goes down. I'm not going to be like, oh, that foliage grass looks better. That toe drag and the rubber that like spikes up out of the ground when he's doing his toe drag on a out of bounds catch. That's got more density to it. Like nobody functions that way. Like it's like don't put the Samsung TV next to the Vizio TV and display at Best Buy. Don't do it.
Yeah, like, that's why they have sections for their TVs. Yeah, no, this this almost feels like they're releasing this because they have to. Not because they have anything prepared for it.
This is closer in the lifespan, isn't it? The PS4 lifespan to PS4 Pro versus the PS5.
I would have to look it up. It might be like a year early. I got to look up when PS4 Pro released. I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, you look up the Pro release date. I'm going to look up the regular console release date. November 15, 2013 is when the PS4 came out.
Of course, when I'm trying to look for the Pro, September 2016.
Yeah, I see November 10th, 2016. So what did I say for 2013? So 3 years.
So yeah, it's a little later.
All right.
Yeah. But even then, like the problem with the Pro is like first party is the only one that really supported the Pro. Like I had a Pro and I felt like I didn't really get my money's worth on third-party games in terms of taking advantage of the feature set, and I worry that will be the case here, other than, you know, like if the AI stuff's really going to take care of a lot of the work for developers for the upscaling, and if it's super easy for them to just kind of unlock performance. But this doesn't... They didn't do a good enough job letting me know that this was a luxury, like, professional device, pro device. Like, this just kind of felt like, hey, this feels like just a revision more than an upgrade to me. Like, because it's just like, here are talking points that we've promised before, but this time I swear we're going to hit them. Like, we're actually going to get our performance where we promised it of the 60 frames. The only thing that I found interesting in this is when they revealed that like 3/4 of the users prefer performance mode over fidelity mode, which just kind of...
Which means they prefer frames over textures, right?
Yeah, especially when it's kind of hard to tell the difference between...
Yeah, I mean,
the
so
texture
this is...
upgrades.
I was digging through Wario's tweets. It took me a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So games that will have PS5 Pro support: Alan Wake 2, Assassin's Creed, Demon's Souls, Dragon's Dogma 2, Dragon's Dogma 2 is old, isn't it?
No,
Final
it came
Fantasy
out this year.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Gran Turismo 7, Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Forbidden West, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart, The Crew Motorfest, The First Descendant, and The Last of Us Part 2
Isn't Crew getting shut
remastered.
down? Or no, the Crew 2 is being shut down.
Yeah. Other enhancements include PS5 Pro Game Boost can comply more than 8,500 backwards compatible PS4 games to playable on PS5 Pro. This feature may stabilize or improve the performance of supported PS4 and PS5 games, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, so
you know what would have been great, Dave?
Wi-Fi 7 in territories supporting this standard. VRR, variable refresh rate, and 8K gaming are also supported.
You know what would have been great, Dave? If they would have showed a PS4 game named Bloodborne being enhanced with PS5 Pro.
And
show us a PS4 game. Dave, you know how many PlayStation 5 or you know how many PS4 owners haven't upgraded yet?
To the 5, because there hasn't really been... I think, what did we say a little while ago? There's like 6 6 or 7 first-party direct games that are PS5 only.
Yeah. And you know how many of those people, maybe if you told them, like, hey, you know, some of your favorite PS4 games are going to be fucking phenomenal on this Pro, they might make that jump. Because I'm sure there are people, because the PS5 Pro has been rumored since day one of the PS5's release, so you probably had a bunch of PS4 people. I needed a second PS5, and I was waiting for this announcement in order to get a second PS5, but now that the announcement here, I'm not doing it. But I'm sure there's PS4 people that are like, I'm not buying a PS5 yet, because I know a Pro's coming and I don't want FOMO, you know, when I finally make the jump. They could have shown some PS4 games like being heavily advanced, unless that's what they were showing us with all those PS4 remasters that they had in the presentation. Again, that was only about 6 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is going to be a little bit of a slow burn, and I think Sony's okay with that, obviously, with the projected, you know, like the other third party projecting 13 million units sold totally. Like, they understand that this is a very narrow niche that they're going after. Like, I'm fine with that. But then, like, the part that I have a hard time with, and I'm going to get to 2 points in this, is that they released like PSVR 2 in a blog post, but then they give this a video. You know, like they give this a video and an announcement, like an announcement of a meeting. Like, here's the email about the email. You know, and so with very little to show with it, and then like it just doesn't seem like it's connecting, and I completely lost my other thought that I was trying to get to. So
yeah, no, it does, the announcement structure of PlayStation the last couple of years has been completely kind of out of whack. When they do seemingly big announcements, they just kind of throw them out there into the wild and, you know, do this. There's still rumors that we're going to get a PlayStation Direct like next week or within the next 2 weeks. And I'm just like, are any of those games going to have Pro support? Because damn, that would have been pretty cool to see during this Pro presentation. Or does that mean none of those games are going to have Pro support? Really?
Okay, so I'm sorry. Like, so now when Digital Foundry rips this thing apart, and
which it was been pretty good so far. Their podcast on it was like an hour. It was really good.
But when Digital Foundry gets their hands on the device and rips it apart, like that's where it's going to be really cool. When I can't watch their you know, like their 90-minute or 2 hour videos on stuff, but like I see the little clips where they put the graph on the screen and they talk about frames and refresh rate, and they try, like they're like, oh, we're gonna fucking break this, like like, and it's fun watching them, like, oh, we're gonna do everything we can, and they're like, oh, this holds well, this holds well, this holds well. Like, that's where it's gonna be, like, when I see it, you know. But again, like, if you bought this in November, like, what are you playing that? Because I mean, I feel like the customer that would buy the PS5 Pro has played and completed Spider-Man 2, probably platinumed it, played and completed Last of Us 2, probably platinumed it, played Horizon Forbidden West, played Ratchet and Clank, like. And they're going to be like, you know, it's like, I got, you know, like me telling Angela, like, hey, I got a shiny new thing that I want to go spend $700 on. And she's like, she's never like, no, but she's like, okay, let's talk about this. Like, why? I'm like, oh, Ratchet and Clank will look prettier. She's like, the game you beat 2 years ago? No.
Yeah. No, and that's a problem. It's almost PlayStation shouldn't have made their games too easy to platinum.
Well, I don't have the platinums in those.
No, but for me, they were relatively easy to platinum, so it's just like I have less incentive to do it unless you give me
easy to platinum. Like, I never focused enough to do it. My ADD doesn't.
No. Literally, it's just focus. It's like it's like if you want to put the time into it, but you're like there's a Lions game, so, you know. But for me, it's just like Chicago sports suck, so I'm just like, I'm gonna play Ratchet and Clank.
Yep, I got you.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's just like I have very little incentive to check out these games again, other than to load them up once and be like, oh shit, that dirt does look pretty damn high resolution, and then move on, or like, oh, this frame rate doesn't make me nauseated when I spin the camera around because it's 60 and not 30. That's not enough for me to drop almost $900. Again, I'm including tax and all that stuff that I got to deal with. It's not worth $900 for me to deal with that. And then you see the prices for Europe and everything, and the other countries that they showed. It's way more expensive over there.
Yeah.
So I just
and the cherry on top. They made the milkshake and they put the whipped cream on top and they put the little cherry on top. Was they increased the DualShock price by $5 without saying anything.
Oh yeah. Like, but now that seems cheap compared to what you're getting for the Pro. And that's another one where it's just like that just feels greedy. You know, just like with the PS Plus increases.
This is what's happening when you don't have hardware competition.
Yeah.
This is why Microsoft is just but this is why Microsoft is just throwing the towel at the box and said, fuck it. Like we can't. It's why? Like it's just like why? Like
and this is also why PlayStation ignores Nintendo, and they don't see Nintendo as competition.
Yep.
Because Nintendo is going to announce a console probably this year that will release next year that I can't see being more expensive than $400.
Right. And also Nintendo is going to have a game come out this month with Zelda Echoes that by the end of this year is going to outsell every PlayStation 5 or 4 or 5 first party game except for like 3. Like it's going to break the Zelda game is going to break 10 million copies by the end of the end of the year. 10 to 12 million copies. And the PlayStation has very few games, like I can count them on less than one hand, that have done that.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of this year, and I'm just like, I don't know what released this year. Astrobot sold really well, but it's not going to be Zelda sale-wise.
Astrobot's not going to break 10 mil. Ever.
I could see Astro. I can see Astro hit that eventually. It sold really well. It outsold Concord, apparently. I saw that as a
wow.
Yeah, I saw that as a news article, and I fucking cracked up. I'm like, no shit, it better have.
That's only because it only outsold Concord because all the money that Sony gave back, people just put it into Astrobot.
I did that.
Yeah. Oh, I got $40 in my wallet. Oh, Astrobot $60. All right, I'll throw 20 on it. I'm good. I got Astrobot for $20.
Concord was a short-term savings account. That's all that was. Not enough to gain interest, but enough for you to be like, "Hey, PlayStation, hold this money for me."
A Roth IRA with no return.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a PS5 Pro. It was super. Not even frustrating. It was just disappointing. I just wanted something. Dave, me and you were tech people. We just want new, shiny, cool thing, but you got to. Give us a reason.
Like why? Everybody laughs at, or a couple of my friends are like, "Wow, when I always talk about my ROG Ally, they're like, oh, well." I'm like, okay, yes, like it was an expensive piece of tech. And do I take as much advantage of it as I should? Not all the time, but when I do, I'm like, this is pretty fucking cool. Like,
yeah, I wonder if the thing that held them back is because they know the PS5 standard is going to be their best-selling thing, that they didn't want to put something out there that's going to make the PS5 users feel bad. If they would have put
then
out
drop it
$100
right now.
What?
Drop the the non-pro.
No, they should.
Console's $100
drop for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost feel like the PS5 Pro has already got a price drop built into it. That they know, like, hey, if this shit doesn't go well this holiday season, we could drop off $100 and we won't feel the pain. But
they won't drop off $100. They'll just include the drive and the stand.
Cool. Actually, yeah, I'll be fine with that. Yeah, it'll make me feel better. As long as I don't have to attach it myself, like, I'm fine.
You're going to have to attach it yourself.
If I'm paying $700,
it's going to come with the PlayStation rubber band around it with the box with the disc drive attached to the...
just chewed gum to get it to stick there. Just, fuck it. It makes me feel like they just didn't want to make the PS5 users feel bad because that's going to be their best-selling thing, because it might have been...
PlayStation branding rubber band attachment, $5.
Honestly, our little wristbands that we got from E3 stuff, I've been offered a couple $100s for them. So yeah, if they want to sell those, I'll buy them. But I wonder if they were worried that, like, if they put out like a 30-second clip of like, here's what Naughty Dog's doing with the PS5 Pro, and they would have put a mind-blowing video out there, that PS5 owners would then just be like, well, what's it going to look like on mine? And they can't do comparison videos out the gate of just like, well, here's what it looks like on PS5 Pro, and here's
I'll be very, very curious to see, like, and I'm assuming they'll do this. They should do this because they make the TVs too. I'll be very curious to see, like, the PS Pro best compatible TV blog post that comes out.
Yeah, I wonder if that would be when they just kind of buy content from influencers of just like, hey,
Yeah.
here's a video idea.
But I'm saying like when that TV's like $2,500 or $2,000.
This is definitely for the elite of the elite. So
you want this TV and you want the console with the disc drive and the stand and you want PSVR 2, $4,000. Like it's just like for the ultimate gaming experience, $4,000 or $4,050 because you need a second DualShock.
Send in a rebate. It'll come with a PlayStation cleaning cloth to clean your fancy TV and your console. Now I'm sure like there will be a lot of content coming out of like which TV utilizes all the features of the PS Pro or PS5 Pro. Like that stuff's coming, and some of that will be sponsored, some of that won't. But that is definitely
like the PlayStation branding I'm talking about on the like the Western Digital hard drives. Like it's like it's like we put our seal of approval on this. Like
I'm sure the Sony TVs will definitely have that, and they'll probably work with one or two partners. LG seems like the most logical.
Sony owns Samsung too, or Sony? No, they don't own Samsung.
They work with Samsung.
They work. Yeah, they make they work together on the TVs. So
so like Samsung and LG would probably be partners that you would work with for that sort of advertising if they feel like the Pro's actually gonna sell that well. Like I feel like they're going into this knowing that the Pro is very niche, which is why they didn't want to spend too much time on it and why it would be separated from a PlayStation Direct.
It should have just been a written blog post then.
Honestly, but then here's the caveat with that. Then we'd be complaining of like, why the fuck didn't you do a video for this? And the reason is because this is the video that they could produce at the time.
Yeah.
They were damned if they do, damned if they don't, unfortunately. But that's all I have for news. There was a bunch of other bad news that happened this week in video gaming, but I just wanted to keep it to those three things. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is out. Hey.
Oh, okay. So it didn't get delayed, so there's nothing in the what's delayed, right?
I didn't see anything of consequence that might have been delayed.
All right. So what we're playing and watching. So NFL season obviously started. Lions won their first game. Overtime on a Sunday night. Those games get late. Like I forgot how late those get, but you have an extra hour in your time zone than I do. That I would love that to have that. But yeah, kind of just getting back into football, watching football. And then I have not gone back to Star Wars Outlaws. I have really not been able to focus this week on much of anything. And so it's kind of defaulted to college football. Like I played I actually played a lot of online college football, especially today. I think I played 7, 8, or 9 games against like just random opponents. And kind of, it's still 50-50. Like a lot of people quit. A lot. Like down 14 points, down 17 points, they just bail. And they're just
if they when I used to play those games online, I would just remember if they don't get the first score.
Yeah.
They quit. I'm just like, throw it away. And it's like, cool. Thanks for wasting my time. I'll
and
take
they
the
don't.
win, but
I'm not really. I don't know if they've ever talked about like a reputation system. I didn't. Like in terms of like, are they going to keep matching up with people that have a high do not finish rate? So I don't know. I kind of laugh and I'm like, I don't care. I mean, online it's 3-minute quarters, so the games kind of go relatively fast. But I mean, it seems like they've been doing a pretty good job, like balance patching. The little bit that I've seen. We're in the era of like when before in like NCAA 13 and 14 that it was kind of like, okay, this is how the game functions. That's a bad thing it does, but we didn't really get patches like that like we do now. And they're like, oh, like that's a little out of balance. So we're going to do something about that. So that's very interesting, 10 years later. I'm sure Madden's been doing it for a long time. But they're still like, man, interceptions can just get crazy in that game. Like, so, but I mean, it's also a matter of just being careless. But I am having a great time with that game. I feel like the hype has definitely died down a little bit. Maybe that's why I'm not getting my ass kicked online as much, is because the hardcore players have already like won their 100 games or whatever, and now they're just playing with their buddies, or they're not playing it anymore because it's been out for 6 weeks. But overall, I'm still having a very good time with that. No regrets on buying it on both platforms at all. I'm enjoying the time that I get to spend on both platforms with it. I just my hope for next year is the PC version or cross play for Online Dynasty. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I do have to ask. I have homework from my wife for you about an anime for Owen, not for me. Hang on, let me find it. It's TV 14 or whatever. He's watching it on Hulu. My Hero Academia. Is it okay that my 9-year-old watches that?
There's some suggestive. Don't want to be a buzzkill. Probably supervised. Because there can be some moments where it's like, might not want an 8-year-old watching. Nothing like crazy.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. But yeah, it's definitely one that you might want to just maybe keep an eye on. I think it gets darker as it goes on, so it might be one of those ones where you would hope it grows with him unless he binge watches it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would probably, honestly, I would say he's like 2 years away from being able to actually watch that. But if his friends are watching it already, then
I'm not sure if his friends are watching it. I'm not really sure how he got on this. I'd have to see. His older cousin might be, maybe, and that's how his older cousin is a couple years older than him. So
I would recommend that Angela goes to the wiki and then just go through the synopsis and plot, because you'll get all the major points there, and then she could determine whether like maybe this isn't what I want him to watch, because I don't know exact details of like what happens with it, but I do know like it can get a little intense for like
if you were babysitting your 9-year-old niece or nephew and they were sitting on your couch watching that, would your siblings be okay with their children watching that at your house?
I always say it's one of those things where it's always dependent on the kid. You know, in terms
I know, I agree.
Like how they react to that stuff. Just like I played Grand Theft Auto when I was like 7, and I turned out fine as far as I can tell. But I had friends that it was just like, no, you should not be playing this because you're taking the wrong thing away from it.
Right. Yeah. If he starts like reenacting scenes or something like that, it might have to be an adjustment. So.
Yeah. So I would recommend just like going through like the synopsis and plot just to get like the main stuff. Specifically, go through the synopsis and plot for the anime and not the manga, because the manga is different.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely recommend doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. For me, Black Ops beta was last weekend, the second weekend, so continue to do that. They did a really good job of rotating new maps in between the weekends, which I'm very thankful of them doing, because they realized that most people were probably playing both weekends. So they rotated different maps. Still have the same opinion I had from it last week of it is really good. I really enjoy the omnidirectional movement stuff. Map design is as good as a Call of Duty game's map design is. Like, I don't think Call of Duty's really run into map design issues. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a game that I ultimately pick up when it comes out, but it could be one of those things where I wait for it to hit sale and maybe I'll pick it up. There's not a lot of games coming out. Yeah.
It might prompt you enough in November to subscribe to your Game Pass, because you're going to be like, I'll play Call of Duty and then I'll play Indiana Jones, and you keep it for 60 or 90 days and you move on.
Yeah, and that's honestly what I was thinking of. Just like, you know what, I'm going to have some time off during December. Yeah. I'm going to probably get Indie on Game Pass, so I'll probably pick it up then too.
And with the integration of both consoles and Discord and crossplay, like whatever platform you play on doesn't matter, because you can just jump in Discord parties and just play.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what I'm looking at, which is what Microsoft wants, is someone like me to be like, just do Game Pass for a month or two. And then they hope I stick around for Indiana Jones. The other thing that I use my Concord rebate or my Concord savings account to pick up Astrobot, and holy shit, Astrobot is a fantastic platformer. I feel like this is the Mario-like game that PlayStation has been looking for in terms of platformers. It's just a really fun, like family-friendly platformer, pretty chill stakes. It's different than what we're used to the PlayStation output. I know this is technically the third Astro game, but this is a full game. This isn't a VR tech demo. This isn't a DualSense controller tech demo. This is a full $60 game, and it feels like it. It is a ton of content in this game. The platforming is probably the best that like PlayStation has done in a really long time. I love Little Big Planet, but it was always just a little too floaty. There's like a good weight and feel to Astrobot. So I'm enjoying that. Level design is fantastic. There's a ton of content in here. Like, you're going to different galaxies and different planets within those galaxies, and just having different variety of things to do when you're in each planet. Each planet has its own theme and has its own like gimmick, like ability that some of those use like the triggers, the controllers features pretty well and different each time. So there's a ton of variety. So you're not really bored when you're playing this game. I've been basically doing like a galaxy a night. There's like 5 different galaxies with a certain amount of planets with each one galaxy. So I've been playing it basically every night of just like, hey, I'm going to finish one section of this game. And it's working pretty well like that. I could see someone getting tired if they tried to like marathon this game because there is a lot of game to play. But breaking it up night after night has been a really good way of enjoying this. It is definitely like a love letter to PlayStation. Like if you loved all the Easter eggs that were in like the previous Astro games, this one is just cranked up to 11. You will both feel nostalgic, happy, and then also sad while you're playing this game because it does remind you that, like what we talked about last week, PlayStation is an IP graveyard. So there are a ton of, bots that are cosplaying as characters. There's a lot of levels that are like dedicated to different, franchises. So you will feel nostalgic. You will like enjoy finding all the Easter eggs. But then you also have a little bit of like sadness of just like, man, I wish PlayStation was still making stuff like this thing it's referencing, and it does feel like, like they do really early on, like, hey, we're going to just make the game kind of ape escapey for a little bit. And that's really cool. And it makes you really want to play an Ape Escape again, but you realize like the closest you are going to be playing Ape Escape is in this like 10-minute level in Astrobot, because PlayStation's probably not going to go back to Ape Escape anytime soon. So it is a little bit of a bummer, especially like as you collect different, Astros or different robots that are cosplaying as characters. They all go to your home planet and they hang out with you on your home planet. So at a certain point, there's like 300 different bots to collect, like maybe like 150, 200 of them are like actual IP characters. And you're just like walking around your planet and you're just like, oh shit, there's franchise here, there's franchise there, there's franchise there. I don't want to spoil it. And you just kind of look and you're just like, man, PlayStation used to do some wild shit, some very crazy, diverse sort of content they would output. And then you go to like different sections where it's like, oh, here's all the Uncharted characters and here's all the God of War characters. And you're like, they all kind of just look the same and not that interesting. Like there's 7 God of War characters, 7 Uncharted characters. But then you run around and you're like, man, there's like 20 plus different franchise represented with other characters. And you think back to those games of how different they were. And you just, we talk frequently about PlayStation just kind of does open world third person action adventure games, and they kind of all fit in the same sort of realm. So there definitely is some unintentional reflection when you're playing Astro. But that doesn't necessarily take away from Astro itself, because Astro is just amazing.
Is there any 2-player, any co-op to it?
No, unfortunately, no. There isn't. They did say they're going to add...
I couldn't play with Owen, and we'd be controlling 2 different bots or something.
No, I don't believe I saw an option for that. They are adding some DLC that sounds like it's going to be like speedrun extra levels sort of thing. And there are some like challenging levels in this, so it's not just easy going the entire time. The Lost Shape Galaxy things that you can find that are optional quests are downright diabolical with how difficult some of them can be. But they all challenge you in different ways, so they all feel different from each other, so it doesn't feel like super repetitive. But there have been a couple times where I'm just like cursing at the screen of like, you son of a bitch. Yeah,
it's something I'm definitely intending to pick up and play before the end of the year, because I think it's going to be in the Game of the Year conversation, like absolutely. For me, it just feels like it's in a tough window, because like the Plucky Squire is coming out next week, and then Zelda Echoes is coming out like the end of the month, and then you start getting into like some of the heavy hitters of October, like Assassin's Creeds and the Call of Duties and stuff. And so it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, I want to play Outlaws. I want to continue to delve into Star Wars Outlaws a little bit more. For the record, if anybody has or hasn't noticed, like I haven't touched Destiny like in 2 months. Oh, by the way, they doubled down on multiple years of Destiny content this week, by the way, too.
But like not as big annual.
No, but I mean
expansions.
like 2 expansions a year, 2 smaller expansions a year, and going back to the 4 seasons thing. But they pretty much like their new game director came out and said like they have like a 6 or 7 year plan. So like it's very interesting in terms of like what exactly control does Sony does or doesn't have.
Or they're like, you need to have some consistent money coming in.
Yeah,
We don't trust Marathon.
Absolutely, yeah. So, you know, like that's going on. But yeah, I don't. It sounds like it's amazing. A couple people on my friends list have been playing it, and like the stuff, like the reviews for it and everything like that, were good and they were great actually. And it's just I don't have the headspace capacity for it right now. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't have it.
Yeah, this is the closest PlayStation I feel like has gotten to Nintendo, you know,
Right.
in terms of like, this is the Mario experience that they've been casually chasing. They were chasing earlier in their lifespan, but now moved away from it. This is them just being like, hey.
I think Ratchet was kind of that direction for a little while of like, hey, this is our platformer. And then Ratchet kind of just ended up kind of going on its own way. Became significantly more story driven than just gameplay driven. And it seems like on the surface, Astro is gameplay driven.
Oh, 100%. The story is just
and Mario's always been gameplay driven. Always.
Yeah. And again, this is the closest I think they've gotten to it. I'm glad PlayStation finally has a franchise that they could turn into something. It kind of cracks me up though. It's
they
like
need
literally
to increase the cadence though and not wait every 4 years.
Yeah, and not tie it into like, this is a good first experiment, and I think it's going to sell really well.
Over time,
I think it's going to have a great initial sell. And then I see this being the pack-in game eventually for the holiday bundles.
For the $1,000 Pro bundle.
Yeah, and when you look at this in terms of just like, hey, this is a game that it was developed by 65 people, I think, and it took them like 3-4 years, and it's just like, this is.
So how fast can 120 people make this game? Another version, you know.
Or if they don't even want to think that big, like how cost effective is this game? Probably really cost effective, and the return on investment is probably already gained, especially coming off Concord, because there were a lot of people. Like you said, not a lot of people, because not a lot of people bought Concord.
Oh, 51 people played Astrobot at the same time? Ding, 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 ding!
Yeah. No, but in terms of, like, this was a good follow-up to Concord, because this became a lot of people's protest game against Concord in the live service games. There was a lot of people online being like, if you don't want them to do a fucking Concord again, support Astrobot, because it was a very cost-effective game, and it's something different that PlayStation hasn't been known for.
You want to see another Sly, you want to see another Ratchet, you want to see any of that stuff, buy Astrobot.
Yeah, buy Astrobot and kind of tell PlayStation, like, how great you miss Sly or, you know, some of these other characters that are in this. They dedicated, like, a planet to, you know, to Ape Escape. That is an OG franchise that people love, and I'm not saying we're going to get a new Ape Escape because of this one planet in this game or this one level. But if Team Asobi's like, hey, give us a year.
Yeah.
You know, ask PlayStation for a year of funding and we'll make a smaller Ape Escape level. PlayStation might be like, fuck it. Astro worked. Let's let them do something.
For sure.
Yeah. And I will say it did a better job this game than the previous game in terms of working with third parties to get those historical PlayStation franchises included in this. I was surprised with some of the references that they made.
Cool.
In terms of just like some of the IPs they own that they remembered they owned, but then also working with third parties to get some of those characters represented in their game. Even from partnerships that you would be like, oh, they're probably not going to partner with that company anymore. And you probably know where I'm hinting at for some characters, but I don't want to spoil it. Just seeing those games represented, franchises represented, was really cool. Nice. I only have like one area left. Okay. So I will.
Would you say like? I mean, I know you said if you like you could burn out easily on something like this, but what would you say? Like, is it a 10-hour game, 15-hour game?
Yeah, I'm at 10 hours. So I have like
probably
one
a 12-hour
area
game, maybe.
Yeah, 12, 13, depending on if you're completionist. There's some like side content if I'm going to go for the platinum, which I probably will. That will take a little bit of work to get through.
Nice.
Just because it can be challenging from time to time. But yeah, that's Astro.
Perfect. You watch anything?
No, it's literally been every night just getting into some Astro. And then, when Call of Duty was this weekend, I was putting a lot of time into Call of Duty. I'm on call this weekend, so I'm going to be home the entire time. So I'm going to probably try and get as much video game time in, flip Astro, play Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which I forgot was out today. I thought it was out Friday. So I'm going to probably download that tonight and get my ass kicked online on the PlayStation for a little bit.
All right. So there's a couple questions that we got, but I think for the most part we've answered them. Other than I don't think Michael wants to hear me rave about the Lions, like somebody asked about the NFL.
You can. The Lions won their game. The Bears won their game, I think.
Yeah, you want to call that a win? Sure, that's fine.
It's just funny though because I follow enough people that are like Bears fans because Chicago, and it went from like fuck this team, it's a disappointment, what the hell, to like, oh shit, anything is possible towards the end of that. And it was like, and I looked at the box score and like,
I will say that
stats.
you won the game despite your new quarterback.
Yeah, so. No, that's basically what I looked at. Of just like how fast it turned of like, you know what, he didn't fuck it up too bad because they were able to pull out a win. It's like the defense pulled out that win, but okay.
It's sports in general right now are actually somewhat entertaining for me. The Lions are very good and very relevant as a Super Bowl contender. And somehow, some way, Michael, the Tigers are 3 games out of the wild card right now. Like yeah. So they have like 17 games left to play or something like that, and I don't think it's practical, but they're on the graphic, So, and then the other fun stat that I can just kind of just jab at you and twist into you a little bit is that the American League Central as a division is in totality is under 500,
and that's majority because of the White Sox.
4 out of the 5 teams are over 500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what's the fun thing is, so the Bulls, the Blackhawks, and White Sox are all owned by like the same group. They pulled out of NBC Sports. The Bulls start in a month, and no one knows how we're going to watch the Bulls. They're going to start their own network. Okay.
But you don't know if your cable is going to support their network.
Their website leads nowhere for this new network. They don't even, there's articles being like, they don't even have a full like commentary staff hired yet. And we're a month away from the first Bulls game.
Yeah, Chicago. So like Chicago doesn't, and not that it's anything any good right now because they're in financial trouble too, but like you guys don't have like Bally Sports.
We used to. It was Comcast Sportsnet Chicago. And Comcast is not doing regional sports anymore.
Okay.
And
but you didn't have Bally.
No, we didn't have Bally. And it started because the Cubs made their own network for themselves.
Yeah.
Which immediately destroyed Comcast.
It pulled them off WGN too, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah, for their network. So then WGN is now like a weird shell of itself. It does a lot of like
news
church
network,
stuff
right?
and news stuff now. And then it destroyed Comcast because Comcast was partnered with Cubs
which hurts my childhood heart, by the way, because growing up in Metro Detroit, like WGN was part of like my cable package all the time. And it was inevitable. Like I could come home and watch a Cubs game in the afternoon and watch a White Sox game that night. Like,
and they killed that, and that was over-the-air TV. That was free TV in Chicago. So then it was like you had to have Comcast Sportsnet to watch Cubs game, White Sox game, Bulls game, Blackhawks game. Cubs made their own network that's a pay network. So then Comcast was like, turns out the Cubs are the only popular team on this network. So then they were in financial issues. So then the Bulls, White Sox, and Blackhawks are like, we're going to do our own network like the Cubs did, except we're incompetent as fuck. So like now we're a month away, and I have no idea if I'm going to be able to watch a Bulls game.
That sucks.
Yeah. Or how much it's going to cost, where it's going to be available. Because again, their website just leads to like a P.O. box in Nashville. Like no joke. Like when I went to the website last week, it was just like, hey, if you want to email us, you can, or if you want to send us mail, here's our P.O. box. It's a shit show in Chicago, but
you have to keep us updated on that. I'll be fascinated by that. So
I need my Bulls games like that.
I understand. You gotta, terrible.
I'm not watching the White Sox anytime soon, but the Bulls, I need them.
It just made me feel really old when the White Sox fired their manager and Grady Sizemore became their manager. I'm like, I liked watching him play. I'm old.
That freaked me out. That freaked me out. Because first off, fuck Grady Sizemore. And second of all, why is he managing
that bad of a job?
No. Because he was a
Indian.
Indian. Yeah. So it's like
Guardian. Guardian.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got to clarify. He was a Cleveland Indian, which is a sports team in Cleveland for the people that don't follow American baseball. But yeah, no, he was on the enemy team for so long, and it was just like, no, it's like
Well, here, like you'll appreciate this. Not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but like this is made me feel old moment this year or last year when I didn't realize it. Do you know who the Tigers' third base coach is? And that you probably don't. But.
Not offhand, but I'll know the name once you say it.
Joey Cora.
Yeah, no, that's weird. Yeah,
and he looks old as shit. Like,
yeah. Well, it's like I want to say, was it Morneau from the Twins? He's currently. I think he was like a sideline coach for the White Sox.
Justin Morneau
years ago. Yeah, and I was just like, why is this son of a bitch on this team right now? Because I know, when players retire, they switch teams, but I hold grudges.
Like, for whatever reason, like, but and then at the same time, like, Ozzie Guillen being a manager didn't bother me. I watched Ozzie Guillen play.
Yeah, like, and he also played for the White Sox, so it's just like, that makes sense. But when you see, like, the enemy teams doing that, I'm just like, oh, what the hell? I don't like that.
It'd be like Derek Jeter managing the Mets.
Yeah. He decides to manage the Red Sox, and he was this is wrong.
So,
all
right. There's our sports banter. So,
sports.
All right. You can follow us on social media at Digital Days Pod is the main channel. At the first MJC is Michael's. At Good Dave Hunt is mine. Those are all on Twitter. Facebook group and Discord server are there, as well as our Patreon, patreon.com/Digital Days Gaming. And other than that, I hope everyone has a great week and keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.